Hello, my name is Malik Abbasdab. Welcome to PM Express. It's 49 days, barely 49 days to the December presidential and parliamentary elections. But there's an avalanche of cases against the Electoral Commission, the elections governing body, in court. Is this year's election in trouble? Are the elections going to come off, or the elections are in danger on the basis of these cases brought by a number of presidential hopefuls whose attempt to get into the race was cut short by the Electoral Commission for reasons the EC explains are infractions on the candidates' nomination papers. With me in the studio to do the discussion is lecturer at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Dr. Edward Brenya. Doc, welcome to PM Express.
Thank you.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
I know.
You are a political science lecturer and you live politics every day of your life. When you sit back and watch what has unfolded over the last week or two since the EC took its decision, are you worried?
I'm not. I'm not worried at all. I'm not worried because the EC is applying the rules that govern its office. And if you listen to the argument that is being made by the political parties, many of the arguments that I hear are moral arguments that borders on what the issue ought to have done. The EC did not make moral arguments, making legal arguments. So if someone is going to court on the basis that I had, for instance, an individual endorses my form and move on to endorse another form, and then you question yourself, you are asking, how should I have known that this individual has earlier on endorsed another form? I think it's like...
Is that not a legitimate question? Would you know?
Yes, we can ask that, but let's see a similar scenario. I'm a rational being. I want to buy things for less as a rational being, pay less for my money. Then I'm in my house. These days we have people, retailers going around houses to sell. At my house, normally I would have bought this glass for 2 cedis. Somebody comes in and give it to me at 1 cedi 80 pesos. How would I know if that thing was stolen or not? But we know that there's no court in Ghana that you go and ask that question, that it will fly. That is why it is embedded on the political parties to look out for people of integrity. When you have persons of integrity, ideally, those individuals will not endorse 2 nomination forms when they know that it is illegal. It is embedded on the political parties to do the background check, to check to see that they have individuals that are law-abiding, that are of high integrity, that will not do things that are illegal.
Are we not laying a foundation for a very dangerous precedents going forward? For example, if at whatever time, in whatever year, for whatever reason, if someone wants to frustrate another person's attempt to contest the presidential election, all it takes is to sponsor one person to cross-endorse the candidates. And the candidates are disqualified on the basis of that.
What do you mean by sponsoring?
For example, if the MPP wants to create, or let me not use the MPP, let's take
a political
PPP.
party.
If one political party, a political party A, wants to create problems for political party B, and then gets somebody who has endorsed political party C and pays this person money to endorse political party B.
But wouldn't that be the case that we are taking away the ability of political party B to make a choice? Can political party A impose the individual on political party B?
So, but I'm saying that if you will not know if the person is sponsored, and then you go to the person, oh, I haven't endorsed anyone. Meanwhile, they have, and then they endorse your forms.
Why would you go in for somebody to endorse your form that you don't even know?
Well, you may know the person, but if for whatever reason the person decides to take money from some other person to do you,
that is why I'm saying that if you knew the person and you knew this individual to be a person of high integrity,
is betrayal. Sometimes you are betrayed by people who know
then you become a victim. It's just an example. I mean, a victim of somebody's immorality.
And we are saying that the EC can disqualify somebody.
We are dealing with law. We are dealing with law. We are not dealing with morality. What you are explaining here is morality. It is law. Just the example that I just gave. We could not say that because this individual who bought the item did not know that it was stolen, therefore we could not implicate the individual. It is embedded on us as individuals, as political parties, to look out for people of integrity. It is not a job of the EC to do that for us. And I don't think that we can make a case, legal case, that just because I didn't know.
Okay, let's not veer too much into the, let's take that of PPP, for example, Papa Kusindo.
Yes.
So there is Richard Asida, who endorses his forms, both in the Volta region, a district in the Volta region, another district in the Central region. And he's disqualified on the basis of that. You think it's fair?
Why is it not fair? You see, there is one thing we have to take into consideration. The reason why we've always been accused in third world countries is that our institutions are not strong. When you are talking about institutions that are strong, you are talking about institutions that applies the rule of the law. When the law rules, we are not looking for morality.
There are those who say natural justice requires that before you condemn a man, you hear him. That's the reason why when you do something which is wrong, the police take you to court and make a case against you, and an impartial judge. So
in that case, are we going to say exonerate this individual who decides to endorse forms at two different districts? And are we going to implicate them?
No, I'm just saying there are those who argue, and this is not my argument.
I get it. I'm arguing along.
If somebody, in the case of Papa Kusindum, for example, you should hear him out. You should call him and say, look, we have identified this with your form.
And that's why I'm also asking to those who would argue that this individual, is he or she going to be implicated? If that individual is implicated and that individual is the person that endorsed your form, what do we expect to do? Is it not the case that we are arguing we are forcing ourselves to focus on morality instead of...
Let's take Nana Konedu, for example.
Yes.
Nana Konedu, there is Halifu Abdullahi, who, according to the EC, was engaged in double registration. And to that extent, the EC says he is not a validly registered voter, and therefore his endorsement of Nana Konedu's forms is nullified. And on the basis of that, she's disqualified.
I would have agreed.
Is that fair?
I would agree perfectly with the NDP's case. If the NDP has done something very little extra by going to the EC and asking, I have voter A, B, and C who intends or we want to endorse our form. Could you please check to see if this individual...
There were 17 political parties. Is it your suggestion that all the 17 should have taken, each of them should have taken the 432 subscribers to the EC to check?
At different levels, at different districts, at different offices.
Yes.
And if indeed 17 people are doing it, each one of them is doing it for the people that are going to endorse. Konedu's case would have been strong if Konedu could say that, yes, we went to the EC to verify and they refused and came back to reject our nomination. That would have shown that you took extra steps.
In the law, in CI 94, and I'm sure you would have read CI 94, you have read Regulation 9. Regulation 9 says that if a person submits their nomination papers, and I'm paraphrasing, and there are infractions or there is a problem with either the nominee himself or the person subscribing to the nomination, the EC shall, and they use a mandatory term, shall notify the the person so that the person can make amendments to the form. The others who have been disqualified said this was not done.
Well, the EC, as we know, said they did everything that is required of them, and that their rejection of the nomination of these 12 political parties was legal. It was based on the due processes.
Admits that not all of them were contacted, informed about problems on their
That is why we have the law courts, and that's why we're waiting to see. And it's, I mean, we need to commend the Chief Justice for setting up courts to expedite this action.
But you don't think that the going to court will affect the process?
I don't see any the possibility of the electoral calendar being changed.
Okay, there's somebody who quite disagrees with you. Let's hear Kofi Annan, and then he has some views on this. Let's hear him, and then we can come back into the studio and talk to Dr. Brunya. You're watching PM Express, and we are discussing the brouhaha regarding the disqualification of a number of presidential candidates. Keep watching.
I know from IPAC and from talking to some of the people there that at least with the receipt of the nomination, the fact that a lot of it is being processed now, one would say that the commission is actually almost ready for this election. The only snag, the only problem that we foresee is that if the courts don't expedite action on this suit that has been filed against the commission, and by this I'm talking about the PPP suit against the Electoral Commission. If this thing is not handled carefully, and if the courts do not expedite action on this, then it means that we are going to have a drag. And I believe strongly that if this should go on and no solution is found, then the Commission will have a problem with this timetable.
Yeah, welcome back. My sincere apologies. The voice you just heard is that of Mr. Albert Kofi Ahen. He is a former Director of Operations at the Electoral Commission. He's the National Coordinator of the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO. My guest is still Dr. Edward Brunya. Doc, you just heard someone who is, for want of a better expression, coming from the kitchen. Mm-hmm. He was there. He was Director of Operations, Electoral Commission, before he went on retirement. He says these legal suits have a tendency to affect the processes.
It all depends on...
disagree with him.
I disagree. It all depends on how the legal system handles it. The Chief Justice has set up courts, nominating judges across all districts to expedite action on it. And I believe strongly that the court system would not want to see a change in the electoral calendar, given the cost, both financially and socially, to society. And I believe no matter how this issue is being handled, that yes, it might have to be debated, argued out, that a decision will be made. And the decision, if it is to get the EC to reinstate these political parties, that will be done.
Do you think the EC should have just spared everybody the trouble by just alerting them?
I don't think the EC should. The reason why I strongly believe the EC shouldn't have done that is that the EC is actually responding to the request of these political parties.
Should the EC be held to the same standards? Zero tolerance for mistakes?
That is what the political parties have done. Many of them have taken the EC to court on issues that it could have been a dialogue. They decided that the EC work with laws, that they take the EC to court to check if it is authorized or its actions are unconstitutional. So if you tell the EC that yes, your office is guided by law, and when we feel that your actions are contrary to the law, we'll go to court to seek redress or interpretation of your actions, then what makes it wrong?
So should we hold the EC to the same standards?
Absolutely yes.
Zero tolerance.
Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes.
But does this not run counter to the judgment of the Supreme Court in respect of the election petition? Because in one of the major planks of the petitioner's case was that returning officers, presiding officers failed to sign pink sheets as required by law. In the CI that guided that election, it was stated that the officers shall sign. Mm-hmm. They didn't sign. The Supreme Court held the view that the votes could not be nullified because that would have amounted to punishing the voters because of the failure of the electoral officer to sign. In this case, if you failed an Akonodu, for example, because somebody engaged in multiple voting, are you not punishing her for somebody's crime?
Because in the case of the voter who came to vote, who exercised their political rights, they had that choice, the right to exercise the right, not depending upon who signs at the end after that exercise has been done. In the case of the political parties and their nomination, they are the one going to look for somebody to endorse their form. So the responsibility is a burden on them to look for people of integrity, people that can be cleared. A political party goes in and exercises their right by voting. They have finished that. Then the individual who is charged to supervising failed to endorse it after it's done. Those are two different cases. In the other of the political parties, they are submitting their form and they come and solicit your support by endorsing. And if I'm coming to solicit your support, then it is embedded on me to make sure that I get the right people.
It doesn't matter that out of 432, you got 431 to be persons of integrity. Only one person.
That is what the law is.
Disqualified on the basis of that.
That is what the law is about.
There are those who also argue that, and these are decided cases, if a person's office is established by the Constitution, you cannot use any other law outside the Constitution to disqualify the person.
So what law has?
Because CI 94, which spells out these subscriptions, is a subordinate law to the Constitution.
Where does the CI 94 get its authority from?
The Constitution.
So?
But it has provisions which are not in the Constitution, because the Constitution doesn't require the presidential candidate should be subscribed to.
But is it not the case that because the Constitution is a living document, that we allow parliamentarians to make acts and statutes out of the Constitution?
Yes, and any statutes that they make must not be inconsistent with the Constitution.
That is for the court of law to address. That is for the court of law. It's about this whole idea of declaring assets of presidential candidates. If there is any contradiction in the Constitution, it is for the court of law to address. It is not for the you and I to address. If anybody is concerned or worried about that, you take it to court and the court addresses the issue. For us, as an organization, the EC is obliged by the very law that gave it its mandate. And because it is the very law that gave it its mandate, that when people think it is going outside the mandate, the law will be interpreted. That is why the EC must work with the CI94. If anybody thinks that what they are doing is unconstitutional, the courts are there to decide. For me, because the EC is actually applying its rules, I don't see where they are making any mistake. If the court feels.
Is the EC overly confrontational? There are those who believe that the EC is overly confrontational. Is that a view you hold?
No, I don't see. And I said that whatever is happening right now, whatever the EC is doing, is what the political parties requested from the EC. It's the political parties who show the EC how they must go to court to seek interpretation of the rules that guides their office. And what the EC just did is, yes, I'm ready to abide by the rules that guides my office, and this is how it will look like when I abide by the rules. And people are not comfortable. People are asking that, let's set the rule aside and do what is moral. This is not about morality. This is about legality, and it is high time.
The argument is actually, they are making legal arguments, not moral arguments. But I want you to hold that breath, that thought. We have to take a breather. When we come back, my guest, Dr. Edward Brenya, will continue with this discussion. You're watching PM Express. Stay tuned. You're welcome back. You're watching PM Express, and we are discussing the legal suits, an avalanche of legal suits having been brought by disgruntled, disqualified presidential candidates of various political parties. We are asking the question, are the elections threatened by these legal cases? Dr. Brenya, who is my guest, doesn't quite believe so. So your point is the people should go to court. They have gone to court. There are those who say, Afarajan used to say, go to court, go to court. And when people went to court, this country was locked down for 8 grueling months. And he himself had to go in and out of court. And he was told by Justice Atuguba, who presided over that matter, when you tell people go to court, you should know that going to court is not easy. Shouldn't the EC have taken a cue from that advice?
But at the same time that these issues go to court, advice was given, the political parties were listening. What did we see afterwards? How many times had the political parties gone to court? Even when they knew that going to court is going to delay a lot of things.
The things that would not make them go to court.
I am about strong institutions, institutions that apply its rules. We've lived in a country where, as Obama rightly observed, we've made personality stronger than the rules. I see an institution that is trying to apply its rules. If this institution is making a mistake, that is why we have the court, which is supposed to interpret some of the things that ordinary people like us do not understand. The EC is telling us they are confident they followed the due process. The political parties feel that their rights is being trampled upon.
If the NDC or NPP had the kinds of problems that these other parties have, do you think the EC would have discussed?
I don't like when we look at if issues. The reason,
a hypothetical question.
Yes, the reason why I don't like it if issues is that then we prevent society from moving on. If is normative, what
I guess you're just looking for fairness. You just want to be sure that the rules are applied evenly.
My guess is that just as the Electoral Commission has applied the rule to these 12 political parties, it would have been done the same to these two political parties.
Indum has argued that the CPP, for example, actually brought their payments, the 50,000 filing fee, after the EC's deadline, but that was accepted. Is that not bending the rules in favor of others whilst holding them against others?
What is preventing him from going to court? What is preventing Papa Kotindi?
Yes, he's gone to court.
Yes,
but he's just making the point that you have to be fair when you apply the rules.
That is why, yes, you feel you are not treated fairly, go to court. Let the court deal with issues.
But why not just treat everybody fairly? Why do you...
That is an allegation. Has that been confirmed? What Papa Kwasindum said is only an allegation that he has made. Has it been confirmed? We don't know.
We know that it's a matter of public record that the CPP got the Electoral Commission after the deadline.
Have you gotten that record?
Yes, it was public. It was public that they went to the EC after the EC gave a 12 noon deadline. They went there after 12 noon and they were accepted.
The issue is that because this is records that show unfair treatment, and since the law allows you to go to court for redress when you feel that someone has been treated unfairly, why should this be a problem? The EC is arguing, I'm abiding by the rules of my office. You feel you've not been treated fairly. The courts are there to decide. And I believe strongly in our legal system, that the legal system would help us unfold some of the things that we are worried about right now.
Dr. further makes the argument that the EC should allow the Ghanaian people to decide who their leader is. The EC cannot on its own sit in his offices and determine the fate of a presidential hopeful.
Then the office of the EC is not necessary then. Any political party should just decide that we want to contest.
The EC's job is to organize the elections, not determine who contests.
And part of organizing the election is setting up rules that abide the election. The organization of the election should be guided by certain rules.
Eliminating others on the basis of those
That
rules.
is if you do not meet the requirements. Sometimes we are making this if argument, but we forget that an independent candidate, which the PPP, NDP, and others probably because their political parties have more followers than was actually his nomination was accepted. Exactly. So what are the issues for? Why are we worried about the two big political parties when we know that there is someone that, because it's not a political party, probably have less followers than the ones that some of them.
We have moved away from the if.
I get that, but
Ndim's argument is, let him go through the process. Let the Ghanaian people vote. Why eliminate him even before the process
The point is that I'm saying, because the Ghanaian people has entrusted this whole business of election to an institution, and given that institution,
and expect that institution to be fair and balanced, and
the institution is saying I'm fair because I'm applying my rules evenly. If there is anyone who disagree with what they've said, that is why the court. So let's wait for the judgment from the court. I'm all for institutionalism and the court deciding.
What's your assessment of the 4 presidential candidates who made it? The NDC's John Dramani Mahama, the MPP's Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the CPP's Ivor Kovna Greenstreet, and then Jacob Aseyeboa. 4 of them. What do you make of them?
What do you mean by what do I make of them?
What's your assessment of the 4 of them?
Assessment in what sense? I don't get your question clear. In terms of their capability to win or what?
In terms of their strength.
Oh, the 3 political parties and the
independent.
I think at this time it is too early. Of course, we know that 2 of the political parties are stronger than the 3rd party and, of course, the independent candidate. Between the 2 political parties, MPP, NDC, it is too early to call. At this point, we've heard reports that give an advantage to one political party than the other. But for me, I think it is too early to call. What will make the difference is what happened from today and the day of election. For now, each of them are at par with each other because each of them are trying the best that they can to reach out to both their core supporters and the independent candidate.
What would you say is different in this year's campaign, comparing this year to the last campaign in 2012?
The difference is how these political parties are going down to the grassroots. It is so amazing.
Really?
Yes, they are down with the grassroots. We've heard stories of Bahomians sleeping in some villages for 3 days. We've heard stories of the vice president and others moving from one village, very remote village to the other. Almost all the government functionaries now are all moving to the field. That makes it very difficult to tell. It makes it very difficult. In fact, when we heard about some of the agitation that was coming from the Volta region, I was so curious to see what happened when the president got there. But the president is in the Volta region. He's attracting the crowd. We've not seen some of the things that we were perceiving, even though it must be happening on the background. And the question that I asked myself, well, if the NDC is not really, per what we heard, losing the grounds in the Volta region, then is the NDC going to lose its grounds? NDC made a case that they were going to increase their political fortunes in Ashanti region.
Yes.
We saw the rally that was organized over the weekend. It is absolutely clear that the 1.52 million votes that they are looking for, they might not be able to get it. By my estimation, NDC, the best they can get will be around 800,000. That is if they are to increase from where they were.
In the last election, the president actually did almost 600,000.
Yes.
600,000 plus. The hope was to do 1 million. And then at the rally, they revised it to 1.5 million.
Which I thought is a political gimmick. I think it's something, a rule of the mind that he did. I believe that definitely per the trend and the history of their votes in the Ashanti region, they're going to have an increase in the vote, and the maximum that they could do, they are looking at 700 and something to 800, which I believe that is what the 1 million they cannot get. But if this is happening, and if we compare it to the kind of crowd that we saw with the MPP, when they did the
You're talking about their manifesto launch in Trade Fair
Center.
Yes, yeah.
Then it makes it very difficult for you at this point to be able to draw any conclusion. I still believe that both parties have a lot to do, and the one that beefs up its campaign strategy, the one that is able to communicate and reach out to the people in a convincing way, will be the one that will
Let's look at the messaging so far. And you were just talking about the Kumasi one. You heard the messages, the MPP's manifesto launching. You heard the messages. Do you think there's a shift? Is there any change in terms of the language, the political language, the way the messages are crafted, the way the speakers deliver them?
This time, what I'm seeing, which is started with the MPP, after the manifesto. Now the MPP is becoming more appealing to the voter in a way that they feel they can be trusted. The NDC started this long ago, making infrastructural development the core of their campaign message. They are still hammering on the fact that the foundation has been laid, that once the foundation is laid, should the president be given another term, that they will translate the foundation into economic fortune. It is messages that can work to the advantage of all political parties. The other side that I find very interesting is the mentality that we have to promise the voter things so that we can get them to vote for us. The idea that, yes, to a larger extent, we have to entice them with material things. Both political parties are doing it. And even the communities are even also selling their vote. If you don't give me this, then we are not voting for you.
And that raises a bigger question. How much vote buying is going on?
At this stage, yes, all political parties are doing it.
How much?
Well, to the level that we've seen in all elections. To the level,
not more, not less.
Not more, not less. It's about what we have seen in previous elections. At least many a time when we hear this, we don't actually get the actual figures, right? It's always been speculative. We see some that is being given out, and I think the trend has been the same for all elections, just as this one is.
That means nothing has changed in terms of the quality of our democracy.
Nothing has changed. Probably in terms of, if we're looking at any changes that we are seeing right now, I believe it's more with how these political parties now feel that they should be dealing with issues. These days, you realize that they are trying to communicate to the people based on issues. The unfortunate thing is that some of the issues that they are communicating on seem to be vague promises.
Is that really the truth? Because if you monitor a lot of what was said at the MPP's manifesto launch on Sunday, and if you monitor what was said at the NDC's Ashanti Regional campaign launch, a lot of it was diatribe.
Exactly.
Attacks, personality attacks.
But besides...
But Bawumia received his share of insults. The president got the calls of incompetent, incompetent, incompetent.
But besides those attacks, which has always characterized our election, you realize that even as they attack the opponent, they try to tell why they must be kept in office, which was not what our politics used to be. We go in there, we attack people, we distribute material things, and then we get a vote. This time, they are beginning to feel the importance of actually giving people an idea of what they will do for them, why they must be given the opportunity to serve. Even though they are not doing it very perfectly, but as I said, many of what they are saying are promises that cannot be substantiated. It is setting the pace for issue voting democracy.
Do you see that happening? Do you see this election or future elections being based primarily on issues, people voting on issues?
Yes, I see that.
This confidence?
I see that because many a time I've said that when we put up a manifesto, the presumption has always been that manifesto is for the consumption of all, but I disagree. Because when you have a die-hard supporter of a political party, they don't really care what is contained in the manifesto.
And there are many of them.
There are many of them. Manifestos are meant for the very few independent candidates who are likely to give you their vote, the floating voters, the ones that will give you their vote based on your conviction of how you can better their political.
Are there any floating voters? Is this not some highfalutin idea? In reality, do they exist?
They do. They do exist.
Where?
In Ghana.
Who are they?
And they are mostly...
Where do they live? What work do they do?
They live in societies, communities with us. They are individuals who are educated, individuals who pay attention to what goes on. They are individuals who normally would vote for a political party when they feel that party has given them something to believe in. They are not in the majority, and therefore sometimes we may feel they don't exist. They are the one that make the difference between the 50-50 and the 1. Right now, I would say that both of the big political parties, probably each one of them has their 47 per their own support. The difference to move to the 50+1 will be how well you are able to communicate to some of these floating voters so that they vote for you. It does not mean that some of these floating voters are not sympathetic to political parties, but they don't have a strong attachment to whatever political party they are sympathetic to. And therefore, when they feel things are not going the way they expect, they float. That's why we call them floating voters. They either shift to party A or party B based on their perception, their calculation of how well that political party can better their fortune. And I believe strongly they exist. They are the ones who take interest in manifestos, sit down to listen to some of the analysis that are done on radio, and not moved just by party colors, but what the party is promising to them. And I believe they exist in Ghana.
What's the place of ethnicity? What role does it play?
You know, it's interesting.
Do you envisage it will play in this election?
It's very interesting that our politics has been described by those outside as ethnic policies. Yes, we cannot totally run away from the fact that because of our diversities, because of who we are, we cannot run away from the fact that ethnicity, religiosity, and other things will come to play when it comes to selecting candidates. But we must also not run away from the fact that our politics is not totally colored by ethnicity. We heard from the president's constituency, we heard a chief saying, we are not voting for you because you've not done anything. We heard from voter region when one of the chiefs came out and said, well, you've always thought of us as the stronghold, that we are not voting for you. If indeed ethnicity was at that peak and characterize our election the way we've been made to understand, those things will not have come.
And in 2008, I heard Southern chiefs, Ashanti and other chiefs telling President Mahama Fatah. So I'm just adding to what you are saying.
Exactly.
But in spite of these individual or pockets of cases, largely, do you not think ethnicity plays an important role?
Yes, I will not rule out totally the fact that some level of ethnicity does come to play. And when we say that, we will not be speaking only of Ghana. We saw the black votes when Obama contested for election. We saw that in the United States.
But traditionally, the blacks have always voted Democrats.
But it was different for Obama than it was for Clinton. It was different. And therefore...
That was color. That was not ethnicity.
What are we talking about? Color, race, ethnicity? What are we talking about? It is the peculiarity of us. In fact, the politically right term to use when we are assessing the vote pattern is to use ethnic voting, right? So people are voting for him because they are of the same race, because they are of the same color. What if we were to bring the United States down to Ghana? What would we have said? We are all blacks. And because we are all blacks, then we could be looking at the individual ethnicity. They have white and blacks. And therefore, we talk about race, we talk about ethnicity to some extent. And I'm saying it is normal that when you feel one of yours is going in for a certain position, that you will support. But I totally disagree with the idea that our vote is totally colored by ethnicity. No, we have had...
Has the results over the years not proven this?
Voter region, NDC, basis of voter region as a stronghold. I don't know the last time I checked that Mahama was from voter region. So what are we talking about? The vote in Ashanti region keep going on for NDC. It's rising.
MPP. Okay, yes, it's going up.
For NDC, I'm talking about what they've been receiving over the years. What are we talking about?
And it's not because they are getting a lot more Ashantis to vote. It's because they are getting settlers from the north and other parts who settle there to vote for the NDC.
Have you actually dissect the vote pattern in Ashanti region and said that every voter in Ashanti region
well,
is...
not every, just a majority.
So we don't even know if indeed constituencies that NDC are controlling in terms of parliamentary seats. I don't know if the people living there are people of voter descent or not in descent. I don't know. If that is not the case, then probably we cannot totally reduce everything about election to ethnicity, even though we might agree that some level of ethnicity does take place.
We have to take a break at this point. When we come back, we will continue with this discussion. My guest is Dr. Edward Brenya. He's a lecturer of political science at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and we are discussing politics, the EC's problems. Don't go anywhere. You are watching PM Express, and we are discussing politics, the EC's problems, the legal suits, and the campaigns. My guest is Dr. Edward Brenya, political science lecturer, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Doc, in this campaign, what issues are the winners? What are the big issues for you?
Right now, there are two issues at play, which is normal. The economy, infrastructural development. If you look...
Is the economy, is it discussed?
It is. Bawumia changed the trend.
But he's the only one who is talking.
That is the problem. That is why I sometimes take issue with the MPP campaign strategy right now. Normally when you are in opposition, the people that do the talk for you are your members of parliament. They are the opposition in parliament, and they bring that opposition to the campaign to continue. Unfortunately, we are not getting a lot of these experienced members of parliament campaigning along with the presidential candidate.
Why do you think that's the case?
I think it goes down to some of the things, the speculation that are going on, that a party is refusing to accept. The fact that there is division in the party. That, I think, likely explain why this is what that is going on.
But some of the MPs are talking. The minority leader is talking. Dr. Efri Akutu is talking. Jogate is talking. Okay, Kofi Konada-Proko is no longer an MP, but he's talking. So some of them are talking.
What are the numbers in terms of... Remember, what makes it more important is the fact that everything that is being said is built around the sources struck by Kufuor. And if you listen to President Kufuor when he was speaking at the manufacturing lunch, he said, I was able to succeed because I work with 30 people. These people are still around. Some of them are talking. You would have expected that they do more than what you...
Who do you want to see in the MPP's campaign that you are not seeing?
A lot of
Such
them.
as?
Damboche. I don't see Damboche. Richard Anani, I'm not seeing. Isaac Osei, I'm not seeing. And the list goes on. You see, some of these ranking members of committees, very influential people, want to see them talk on issues. Because when they speak on issues, they speak with experience. They speak what they've lived. For whatever reason, we are hearing, well, some of them are old, we are bringing in. Nothing prevents you from campaigning along with some of these individuals, even though many of them may not be returning to Parliament. We can still get them. It's a political party. President Kufuor is old. President Kufuor is not going back to the Flagstaff House. Yes, we saw him talking. So my concern is that when some of these people are not physically seen, then probably this whole allegation of all not being well with the party might be true. I'm using the word allegation and might, because the party is rejecting that as a fact. And when if we can...
Are you suggesting for a moment that those doing the talking are doing a poor job?
I'm not really saying that every one of them.
Because you can't have everybody talking.
Yes, I'm not suggesting that...
In the NDC as well, there are senior ministers who are not talking.
I'm not suggesting that everyone speaking is doing a poor job. But at least if we look at the manifesto highlight, we realize that there were issues that were talking. I mean, Bawumia did excellently well. Akufo-Addo did excellently well. Elizabeth came in, talked a little bit, didn't conclude. But there were others that I felt that some of the individuals who had been ministers, who are ranking members of committees that in specific areas will have probably spoken better or addressed some of the issues.
But that's what they sought to do, didn't they? They had Professor Kobna Frimpong-Boateng coming to talk about technology, and Jogate was actually supposed to talk about infrastructure, and Jogate was Attorney General in the Kufuor administration. You had Hajia Alima Mahama, who was Women and Children's Affairs Minister under Kufuor, coming to talk. So you had a number of them coming to talk. There are only a few areas. You can't have everybody
I get it, but I'm saying that, you see, there are some individuals that when you talk about MPP and Kufuor's administration, immediately they become the face of that administration.
Are you not seeking to take everybody back?
We're not going back.
They've moved forward.
We are not going back. We are not going back. History is built from the past. You take the past and you build on it. Right? Let's not suggest that, well, Kufuor is gone, his era is gone, the people that work with him is gone, and now he's coming in.
But that's not quite the case, because very many of them are part of the campaign. The Alan Chirmantins are the people who are making all the arguments.
You see,
the Kuku Kwatins, all of the Dr. Ofia Kutus, what's his name, after the campaign launch, what's the name? One of the former finance minister under the Kufuor administration, Dr. Osea Kutu. Dr. Osea Kutu.
But I just heard you telling us that when we talk about the economy, that Bawumia is the only one talking.
No, I was asking about the campaigns generally, and you said, I asked about two things. And you said the economy. And I said, but within the economy, it's just him. He's the one talking about the economy. So the president is not really talking too much about the economy.
The president doesn't need to.
Yes, so that's the point.
The president is talking about things that are favorable to him, and that's why I said two things.
Infrastructure development, the future that he will build on, and all of that. I'm saying that when you say the economy is big, it's just one person who is making it big, Bawumia.
Because the reason why I bring in the others, which I said should have been involved, is that as an opposition party, a party in opposition right now, your strength is when you hammer on the economy, especially when we have this kind of economy, a very weak economy. Your strength is when you hammer on the economy. And it is embedded on all these people, all the individuals in the MPP to join the campaign, speak the same language. The question that I was asking, that all these people that they are talking, what are they talking about? What essentially are they talking about? If all is well within the party would have sat down and planned a message.
So they've done that. If you look at their manifesto, if you talk to them, they will tell you all their manifesto, various sectors of the manifesto was led by different people, everybody playing a role before they came out with their manifesto.
Absolutely. We didn't expect that one person would have actually developed the manifesto.
So Professor Marco Kwe and
yes.
all of Aikwe too, and
yes,
all of them, everybody played
very
their
good.
Part.
Besides they playing the back role, we want to see.
So there are actually more people in it. Oboshi Sai Kofi, Elizabeth Ohini, all of them.
You can list.
All of these people you are talking about worked under Kufuor. All of them are playing key roles in their campaign.
And I'm saying, I've always said that when we say, oh, it's war with the party, I know it's a big issue that people would admit when they are not.
Do you still think that the MPP has serious problems?
Based on what I hear, I still think there are issues that the MPP need to deal with. The MPP for now is struggling with the only two regions that they won in the last election. The Bruno Afo and Ashanti region. And I believe strongly...
They were actually Ashanti and Eastern. Those were the regions they won in the 2012 election.
In the 2012 election. Yeah. But previously they've always won Bruno Afo and those. And I'm saying that the MPP needs to do more. You see, my concern, sometimes when you talk about some of these things, people might be looking at it with a negative eye. But the point that I'm saying is that if you are poised in winning election, you need everybody on board. If there is even one person that you think at this point is not with you, and you really...
Are there any persons who are not with the MPP?
Absolutely.
Who are they?
At this point, we know. And I believe the MPP would admit
that there are people within the party who are not with the party.
Who are not with Nana right now. Where the former Chikofor's chief of staff.
You are talking about Kojo Mpieni.
Yes. Will MPP boldly say that Kojo Mpieni is solidly behind Nana?
Why not?
Well, give me the reason.
He's not?
Give me the reason from all indication of what I see.
Oh, you have the information. I want to know whether he's not. If you know that for a fact.
Well, we only need to pay attention to what is going on in the party. Where is Richard Anani? Is Anani keenly involved? There were allegations that we heard people like Damboche and others are not being used the way they should. That I use the word allegation. My point is that...
But Damboche is heading one of the subcommittees of the campaign.
And
when they unveiled their campaign, I think in Sunyani, he was leading one of the subcommittees.
How much? You've always followed Ghana's politics.
Maybe he's doing background work.
You've always followed Ghana's politics.
Well, not as much as you, of course.
But for the period that you followed, you know Damboche, you know what it's made of, you know the level of activism.
Yes, I know he does background work as well.
Did you observe the 2012 election? Have you watched previous election? Have you seen the role that this guy plays? Damboche. Very vocal guy.
You're not suggesting that without him, they can't run their campaign.
That is not what I'm suggesting, but I'm saying that all hands must be brought on that. Everybody's strength must be brought there, and they must be visible.
What do you make of Rawlings not playing a part in the NDC's campaign?
Everybody knows. We don't need to be told. From the campaign launch at Cape Coast, we don't need to be told that Papa J is not happy. We don't need to be told.
Well,
and
what's the name? Johnson Asiri Nketia, General Secretary of the NDC, explains that at Rawlings' age, and he does have a point, at Rawlings' age, you don't want to drag him onto the campaign.
Was Asiri Nketia listening to Rawlings at the campaign launch when he said, well, the president's wife told me not to give a boom statement? Did they listen to that? Did they listen carefully to what Rawlings was suggesting at that place?
Dr. Brenya, it's been great talking to you. My guest has been Dr. Edward Brenya. He's a political science lecturer at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. God willing, we will bring you another exciting discussion on PM Express. Until then, my name is Malik Abbas Dabu. Bye-bye.